We voted by unanimity. You're officially cut from this family. We don't want your poison among us anymore. Those words hit me like a freight train as I stood in my parents' living room, still wearing my work blazer, laptop bag slung over my shoulder. My name is Sophia Reynolds, 32 years old, and I'd just driven 2 hours from Seattle to Portland for Thanksgiving dinner, only to walk into a family tribunal. My father, Robert, 58, stood at the head of the room like a judge. My mother, Linda, 56, sat on the couch staring at her hands, and my older brother, Marcus, 39, and younger sister, Olivia, 29, flanked them with arms crossed, expressions cold as November rain. I was 45 minutes late because of an emergency client call that couldn't wait. A $400,000 contract on the line for my AI consulting firm, Nexus Innovations. But apparently that was the final straw in a lifetime of me choosing career over family gatherings. Hello, beloved listeners. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I'm always curious to know which corners of the world you're tuning in from. Let me know your city in the comments. Enjoy the story. You've always put money before us, Marcus said, voice dripping with self-righteousness. Every wedding, every birthday, every holiday. You'll never hear when it matters. I looked at each of them, searching for any sign this was a joke, but their faces were stone. My throat tightened as complete rejection settled into my bones. That rejection changed everything. What they meant as punishment became my liberation. Growing up in Portland, family hierarchy was everything. Dad was a traditional accountant at Deloitte for 32 years, believing only in respectable professions like law or medicine. Mum was a homemaker who never questioned his authority, never defended me. Marcus became a corporate attorney at Morrison & Foerster, pulling $220,000 annually, the golden child. Olivia followed the approved path into HR, bought a house 3 blocks from our parents for $385,000, the perfect daughter. Then there was me, the tech nerd, the outsider. At 14, while Marcus clerked at law firms and Olivia joined student government, I taught myself Python, building websites for local businesses for $200 each. Dad called it playing with computers like a phase I'd outgrow. When I got accepted to University of Washington for computer science with an $18,000 scholarship, his response was lukewarm. At least it's a real university, even if the major is questionable, he said over dinner. Mum just smiled and changed the subject. Marcus made jokes about me becoming a basement programmer. Olivia rolled her eyes whenever I explained my coursework. I learned early my interests didn't matter in a family that measured success by proximity and conformity. College was my escape. Seattle felt like breathing for the first time. Surrounded by people who understood code and innovation, I threw myself into every opportunity. Internships at startups where I worked 60-hour weeks for $15 an hour. Hackathons where my team built an inventory app that won $10,000 in seed funding. Research projects with Professor Elena Martinez who actually listened. But every achievement came with a price. I missed Marcus's engagement party because I was presenting at a tech conference in Austin. The family group chat exploded. Typical Sophia, always too busy for us, Olivia texted with eye-roll emojis. I missed my grandmother's 80th birthday for final interviews at Cascade Technologies, a SaaS company offering $72,000 plus equity worth potentially $40,000. Mum left a voicemail saying she was disappointed but not surprised. I missed Christmas my senior year, debugging a critical system for my internship at SwiftPay. The client was threatening to pull their $50,000 contract. I worked through Christmas, solved it at 4 a.m., earned a $2,000 bonus. Mum's voicemail said I'd broken her heart. The pattern was set. My family saw my drive as rejection, my ambition as abandonment. After graduation, I received 2 offers. Bennett & Associates in Portland offered $68,000, comfortable hours, close to family. Tech Forward in Seattle offered $72,000 plus equity, challenging AI projects, cutting-edge work. I took Seattle. Dad didn't call for 3 months. When he did, he said, "I hope you're happy with your selfish choice." Marcus texted, "Guess we know where we rank." Olivia created a family group chat without me. I only found out when Mum mentioned the family chat. When I asked, she said, "We didn't think you'd have time to participate." The real fracture came when I was 25. Leading projects at Tech Forward that saved clients millions. My boss Victoria Tran, a brilliant mentor, saw potential my family never did. When Olivia announced her wedding for June 15th, I marked it immediately. But 6 weeks before, Victoria pulled me aside. Our biggest client, Retail Max, generating $4.8 million annually, was flying me to San Francisco for final negotiations on a $1.2 million expansion. The dates were June 15th to 17th, non-negotiable. If we didn't close, a competitor would. I called Olivia that night, hands shaking, explained everything, offered to fly back late Saturday for the reception. "So you're choosing work over my wedding?" she said, voice icy. "It's not choosing, Liv. It's my career, my future. I'll be there for parts." She laughed bitterly. "Don't bother. You've made your choice." She hung up. Marcus called 10 minutes later. "You're making a huge mistake. This is family. Family comes first." I tried explaining about professional obligations. He cut me off. "It's always personal when you pick strangers over blood." I went to San Francisco. We closed the deal, secured not just $1.2 million, but a 3-year partnership worth $5 million. I got a $20,000 bonus promotion to senior project manager at $95,000. But I got a text from Mom at 11:47 p.m. on Olivia's wedding night. "Your sister cried when you weren't there for photos." The empty chair was humiliating. "Everyone asked about you." The guilt ate at me for weeks, but my calls went to voicemail, texts left on read. The family gathered without me constantly. I'd see Facebook photos, everyone smiling, raising glasses. Captions about family is everything. I wasn't in a single frame. One Christmas photo showed everyone in matching red sweaters they'd coordinated without telling me. Work became my anchor. At 26, promoted to Director of Digital Innovation at Tech Forward, managing 12 people, earning $145,000. I moved to Capitol Hill, exposed brick, windows overlooking the Space Needle. I bought art, learned to cook Thai food, joined a running club. I built a complete life. The following year, my best friend Priya Chun reached out. She'd completed her PhD at Stanford, was at Google earning $185,000, but wanted to build something. AI consulting for mid-market companies. She explained over coffee. Companies need automation but don't know where to start. Enterprise firms charge $500 per hour and take 18 months. We could bridge that gap. I'd saved $85,000 in 3 years. Priya had $62,000 from savings and inheritance. We met 4 times, stress-tested the model, drafted partnership agreements. On March 3rd, we incorporated Nexus Innovations as an LLC, 50-50 equity split. We leased office space in South Lake Union for $1,200 monthly. Invested $8,000 in equipment, built a website in a weekend. Our first client was Cascade Coffee Roasters, 8 locations struggling with $40,000 annual waste. We built an AI inventory system for $35,000 that cut waste 40% in the first quarter, saving them $16,000. Miguel referred us to 3 others. By month 6, we had 8 clients, $180,000 revenue. By year 1, $520,000 revenue, hired 2 employees, moved to larger space. My family had no idea. I'd blocked them on social media after Olivia posted from Marcus's birthday with caption, "Real family shows up." I changed my number after Mom's 14th voicemail in a month. I stopped attending Thanksgiving, volunteering at food banks instead. Christmas became ski trips with friends who didn't judge me. My therapist, Dr. Sarah Kim, helped me process the grief of losing family to rejection, not death. Staying connected to people who don't respect you isn't loyalty. It's self-destruction. You're allowed to protect yourself. At 28, Nexus Innovations hit a breakthrough. We landed Pacific Commerce Group, 50 retail locations, for $280,000 to implement AI inventory management. The project took 7 months, exceeded every target. Stores reported 28% reduction in overstock costs, 15% improved availability, $1.2 million savings first year. CEO Patricia Lin connected us to her network. Referrals exploded. We moved to Belltown, 3,000 square feet, room for 20 employees. Revenue hit $1.4 million year 2, $2.3 million year 3 with 15 employees. I paid myself $180,000, reinvested the rest. Priya and I maintained 50-50 equity. Tech publications noticed. Seattle Business Magazine featured us in startups to watch with a full-page spread. I spoke at Cascadia Tech Summit to 400 attendees, got a standing ovation. I bought a Tesla Model S for $89,000. Moved to a Belltown loft with vaulted ceilings, balcony overlooking Elliott Bay. Life was good, entirely mine. I was invited to keynote Pacific Northwest Tech Summit. 1,200 attendees, including VCS and executives. I prepared for 3 weeks, delivered what Victoria called the best presentation she'd seen from someone under 30. A Madrona Venture Group partner approached me. "We've been tracking you for 6 months. It's impressive growth. If you consider raising capital, we'd love to lead your Series A." Forbes 30 Under 35 nominated me. I was 29, running a multi-million-dollar business, respected, financially independent. I'd done it without family support, blessing, or acknowledgement. That Thanksgiving, 3 years after I'd last seen them, everything changed. I was reviewing financials with Priya when my work email pinged. Subject: "We need to talk, Marcus." The message was brief. "Sophia, I know we haven't spoken in years, but there's an urgent family matter. Not about the past. Please respond." I debated deleting it. Priya said, "After 3 years? That's suspicious. People don't break no contact unless they want something." I closed my laptop without responding, but it gnawed at me. 2 days later, Aisha knocked on my door. "There's a woman in the lobby. Says she's your sister. It's urgent." My stomach dropped. I walked to reception and found Olivia looking older, tired, hair in a messy ponytail. When she saw me, she attempted a smile. "Sophia, wow. This place is incredible." I kept my voice neutral. "What are you doing here, Olivia? Can we talk?" 5 minutes. I drove 2 hours. I led her to a conference room, closed the door, sat across from her without offering coffee. She fidgeted with her ring. "I know we didn't end well. I know you have every right to hate us, but we need your help. Dad's in serious financial trouble. The house faces foreclosure. He's got 60 days to come up with $200,000 or they lose everything. Mum's devastated, not sleeping, blood pressure through the roof. Marcus and I don't have that money. We thought maybe you, given how well you've done, could spare it." I waited, face impassive. "Why would that be my problem?" Her face flushed. "Because your family, because Mum and Dad raised you, supported you through college. They need help. Surely you could help them keep their home." "You'd cut me from the family," I said evenly. "You voted unanimously to remove me because I put career first. That was 3 years ago. That was your choice. That was years ago. People say things they don't mean when hurt. Can't we move past it? This is about them losing their home." "How did you find me?" Marcus researched. "Your company has a website with this address." I stood. "I need you to leave." "Sophia, please. They're losing the house. Mum's health is suffering. Can you really live with that?" "Yes," I said, opening the door. "I can. Don't contact me again." That evening, Priya and I discussed it over wine. "Do you believe the foreclosure?" Priya asked. "No idea. But something's off. Why come in person? Why now? Why exactly $200,000? Want me to dig? I can pull property records." By midnight, Priya had pulled Multnomah County records. My parents' house at 4722 say Harrison showed no liens, no foreclosure notices. The mortgage was paid off 7 years ago. "There's no foreclosure," Priya said, showing me. "The house is free and clear. Assessed value $425,000. No liens. Taxes current." Someone's lying. Then why lie? Priya kept digging, found Marcus's LinkedIn showing he'd changed jobs twice in 3 years. Then she searched Oregon business registrations. Look at this. Reynolds Tech Solutions, LLC. Registered 6 months ago, April 15th. Principal owner, Marcus Andrew Reynolds. Business purpose, AI consulting and digital transformation services. My blood ran cold. The company offered identical services to Nexus Innovations. Same target market. "He's copying your business," Priya said. "But why reach out about money now?" Couldn't sleep. Something was deeply wrong. The next morning I called David Torres, a former Portland detective now running a private investigation firm. I met him Monday, explained everything. Hired him for $5,000 upfront to investigate my family's activities, financial status, and connections to Reynolds Tech Solutions. "I want to know what they're planning," I told him, "because they're not asking for $200,000 out of desperation." David nodded. "Give me 2 weeks." 13 days later, David emailed a 42-page report. Marcus had started Reynolds Tech Solutions with Olivia as silent partner, each investing $15,000. But the damning evidence came from Tyler Grant, a former employee I'd fired 8 months ago for performance issues and NDA violations. Marcus had contacted Tyler through LinkedIn in May, offering $5,000 cash for market intelligence. Tyler accepted. The emails were explicit. Tyler provided Marcus with a spreadsheet of 23 active Nexus clients, including contract values from $35,000 to $280,000, project descriptions, and pricing structures. He shared internal documents about our sales process, pitch decks, proposal templates. He provided technical documentation about our proprietary frameworks. Marcus thanked him, calling it exactly what we needed to position ourselves competitively, promising $5,000 wired within 48 hours. Bank records confirmed payment May 18th, memo consulting fee, but it went deeper. Marcus and Olivia had been planning this over a year. Email exchanges revealed their strategy. We need $150,000 to $200,000 from Sophia as startup funding, Marcus wrote. We can hire developers, lease office space, underbid her using client intelligence Tyler provides. She won't see us coming until we've captured 30% of her client base. Olivia responded, "Why would Sophia give us money after 3 years?" Marcus replied, "Guilt and family obligation. We play the foreclosure card. Get mom and dad to back the story." Sophia's always been emotional about them. She built her identity on being responsible, the caretaker. If we frame it as saving their home, she'll feel obligated. Once we have capital, we launch within 60 days. Target her clients with 20% lower pricing. The most devastating email discussed the original vote to cut me off. We needed her gone from family events, Marcus wrote 3 weeks before that Thanksgiving. If she's around, she asks too many questions, notices inconsistencies. Better to cut her out so we can plan without interference. Make it look like her fault for being a workaholic. Everyone takes our side, she's isolated. And when we need her money later, we use that isolation as leverage. Olivia agreed. Plus, it sets up the reconciliation narrative. We cut her off, she suffers, then we offer forgiveness in exchange for financial help. She'll be grateful. The $200,000 will feel like atonement, not exploitation. They orchestrated everything. The vote, the rejection, 3 years of isolation. All calculated to manipulate me into funding their scheme to steal my clients and destroy my company. I sat in my office reading David's report 3 times, each pass making me angrier. They'd weaponized my love for family, spent over a year planning to exploit everything I'd built. I forwarded the report to my attorney Rebecca Holland. She read it and called within 2 hours. "Sophia, this is textbook trade secret theft under Washington law. Tyler violated his NDA. Marcus knowingly purchased stolen proprietary information. You have ironclad grounds for a major lawsuit. What does that look like? Civil suit against Marcus, Olivia, and Tyler for trade secret theft, tortious interference, conspiracy. We'd seek injunctive relief to shut down Reynolds Tech Solutions before launch, plus substantial damages. Given the evidence, this is a slam dunk. Criminal charges? Possible. The Oregon State Bar would be interested. Paying for stolen business information could constitute commercial bribery, a Class C felony. I'd recommend filing a bar complaint. He could be disbarred. I authorized Rebecca to proceed. She drafted a cease and desist demanding they dissolve the LLC, destroy all materials from Tyler, cease client contact. She filed a civil lawsuit seeking $500,000 compensatory, $250,000 punitive damages, and permanent injunction barring them from AI consulting in 5 states for 7 years. She prepared an 18-page bar complaint detailing Marcus's ethical violations. But I wanted one more thing. Closure on my terms. When Marcus texted 5 days later, "Can we meet for Thanksgiving dinner? Family wants to reconcile." I agreed. I'll be there. Thanksgiving arrived cold and grey. I drove to Portland in my Tesla listening to podcasts. Rebecca briefed me. Lawsuit served Monday 9 a.m., bar complaint filed. David gave me a USB drive with all evidence. I wore a black blazer, dark jeans, ankle boots. Professional, composed. I arrived at 3 p.m. Mum answered, smiling. "Sophia? You came." I stepped inside. No photos of me remained anywhere. Marcus and Olivia sat on the couch. Dad emerged from the kitchen. We all sat. Tension suffocated. Finally, Dad spoke. "Sophia, we owe you an apology. The way we handled things was wrong." But we're family. We should stick together. Be more understanding, Marcus added. I was harsh. You were building something impressive. I'm sorry. Olivia dabbed her eyes. I've missed you. I should have been flexible. Thank you, I said evenly. Dad nodded. About the financial situation, we genuinely are in a tough spot. Not foreclosure, but significant debts. If you could help with $150,000 or $200,000, it would be enormous relief. I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder. Before we talk money, I want to show you something. I placed the first document on the table, Reynolds Tech Solutions registration, with Marcus's name highlighted. What's this? Dad asked. Marcus's new business, I said. Registered 6 months ago. AI consulting. Same industry as mine. Marcus paled. It's just a side project. I placed the next document, the email between Marcus and Tyler. This is Marcus offering $5,000 to my former employee for stolen information. Client lists, contracts, internal processes, all protected under NDAs. Silence. Mum gasped. I laid out more pages. The client list, internal documents, emails about manipulation, and the thread orchestrating the vote to cut me off. You voted to remove me not because I hurt you, but because you were planning to steal from me, I said steadily. You needed me isolated to plot. Then you'd use guilt to extort $200,000 to fund a business built on stolen information. Dad read, face red, hands trembling. Marcus, tell me this isn't true. Marcus looked at Olivia. She cried. We just wanted to succeed like Sophia, Olivia said weakly. You thought you'd steal it, I interrupted. That's fraud. Conspiracy. Betrayal. I pulled out final documents. Lawsuit complaint, cease, sand assist, bar complaint confirmation. Reynolds Tech Solutions is being sued for trade secret theft. You're both defendants. You're ordered to dissolve the LLC, destroy materials, pay $750,000 damages. Marcus, the bar received an 18-page complaint. You could be disbarred and face criminal charges carrying 5 years in prison. Marcus stood abruptly. You can't do this. We're family. You cut me from the family, I said, standing. 3 years ago, you voted unanimously. I respected that. And now you claim family to fund sabotaging my business. That's not family. That's sociopathic. I picked up my folder. You will comply with the cease and desist. Reynolds Tech dissolves within 30 days. You cooperate with proceedings. You destroy stolen information with verification. And you will never contact me again. I'm done. I paused at the door. The $200,000 you asked for? I spent less building Nexus from nothing. You had every advantage. Stable home, family support, connections, and you still couldn't succeed without stealing from me. That's about character. And you have none. I left. Shouting erupted inside. I got in my Tesla and drove away, feeling lighter. The lawsuit moved swiftly. Marcus tried defending, but Rebecca demolished every argument. Tyler folded immediately, cooperating in exchange for limited liability. He provided a 4-hour deposition, confessing everything. 6 weeks later, Marcus's attorney advised settlement. Reynolds Tech dissolved December 28th. Marcus and Olivia agreed to pay $175,000 damages, plus $48,000 legal fees. The settlement included permanent injunction, barring them from AI business in 5 states for 7 years. The Oregon State Bar proceeded independently. After February hearing, where I testified 90 minutes, the bar issued its April decision: 6-month suspension, 2 years probation, ethics training, public reprimand. His reputation shattered. News spread. Firms withdrew offers. His employer terminated him. Within 3 months, Marcus worked compliance for an insurance company at $62,000 annually, a third his previous salary. Olivia's employer discovered her involvement, terminated her in January. By March, she worked as dental assistant at $38,000. My parents' marriage crumbled. They fought constantly. Dad moved out February. The house sold May for $438,000. They split proceeds, filed for divorce June after 35 years. Meanwhile, Nexus accelerated. January, we closed Series A. Madrona invested $8 million at $35 million valuation. We opened San Francisco office March, Austin by June. Client roster grew to 75 companies, $6.8 million revenue. Forbes 30 Under 35 published May. I made number 22 in technology. We took all 52 employees to CABO San Lucas. Hired 67 by December. I dated Ethan Wu, PhD from MIT, our head of R&D. Life flourished. I joined entrepreneur groups, ran half marathons, bought a cabin. Dr. Kim noticed, "You seem at peace." I am. I don't carry their weight. 2 years later, TEDx Seattle invited me to speak on building success on your own terms. I walked onto stage to 800 people. When I was 28, my family voted to remove me. They said I was toxic, selfish, obsessed with money. They were right to cut me off, not because I was those things, but because I didn't fit their definition of who I should be. I talked about rejection becoming liberation. The applause was thunderous. The talk went viral. 2.4 million views. By 32, Nexus valued at $92 million, Series B raised $22 million. Tracked for $18 million revenue. One evening, Ethan asked, "Do you forgive them?" "No," I said, "and I don't need to." Forgiveness isn't required for healing. Boundaries are. Their absence created space for better people, real success. Somewhere in Portland, my family lived fractured lives. Marcus in diminished career. Olivia answering phones. Parents divorced. They orchestrated their destruction. I didn't celebrate but didn't mourn. They made choices. I made mine. The lesson: family isn't blood. It's respect, support, care without conditions. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're self-preservation. Greatest revenge is living so well their absence becomes irrelevant. To anyone cut off, you are enough. Build your life on your terms. Set boundaries. When those who discarded you return, remember, you owe them nothing. You owe yourself peace, success, freedom to define family on your terms. That's victory, not revenge, liberation. Thanks for staying through this story. What would you have done? Drop thoughts in comments. If this resonated, smash like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Harper was the biggest mistake of my life. I should have convinced Linda to abort when there was still time. Those words crackled through my dad's phone, clear as Seattle rain on glass. I stood frozen in the hallway of the house I'd paid for, keys dangling silent in my hand, 3 hours earlier than expected because a client meeting got cancelled. My name's Harper Mitchell, 31 years old, and I'd just heard my father admit I was his biggest regret to Uncle Run on what he thought was a private call. The same father I'd sacrificed 8 years supporting after Mum died. The same man whose $280,000 gambling debts I'd cleared, whose $420,000 mortgage I'd paid off in full, whose medical bills totaling $95,000 I'd covered without question. My mother Linda had died of ovarian cancer when I was 23, and in her memory, I'd kept Derek Mitchell afloat while building Mitchell Brand Studio into a $4.8 million agency in downtown Seattle. That Tuesday afternoon, listening to him laugh about how he only kept me around for easy money, something inside me crystallized into pure ice. Hello, beloved listeners. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I'm always curious to know which corners of the world you're tuning in from. Let me know your city in the comments. Enjoy the story. I backed out the front door without making a sound, got in my Tesla, and sat in the driveway for 20 minutes just breathing. My hands shook on the steering wheel, but my mind was already calculating. Every wire transfer, every check, every autopay I'd set up for his utilities. The house title transfer I'd completed 2 years ago when I paid off the mortgage, putting it in my name for tax purposes with him as lifetime tenant. The $6,500 I sent monthly for his living expenses. All of it was about to stop, and he had no idea what was coming. Growing up in Bellevue, Washington, I'd always known I wasn't the child my father wanted. Derek Mitchell, 58 now, had been a mechanic at a Ford dealership, the kind of guy who measured worth in horsepower and handshakes. My mum, Linda Chun Mitchell, was a dental hygienist with a soft smile and iron will. She'd immigrated from Taiwan at 19, met my dad at 24, and built a quiet life in our split-level ranch on the east side. My older brother Chase was everything Derek wanted in a kid. Captain of the varsity football team, could rebuild an engine by 16, loved hunting trips and Seahawks games with religious devotion. Then there was me, born 3 years after Chase. A girl who preferred sketchbooks to socket wrenches and spent weekends designing logos on MS Paint instead of working on cars. Chase died when he was 19 and I was 60, driving his motorcycle through an intersection on a rainy November afternoon to pick me up from art club. A delivery truck ran a red light and killed him instantly. I was standing outside the school entrance when the principal pulled me aside, face grave, and I knew before she spoke. Dad never said it directly, but I felt it in every silence that followed. If Chase hadn't been coming to get me, he'd be alive. If I'd just taken the bus like normal kids, his golden boy would still be here. Mum tried to bridge the gap, praising my drawings, framing my acceptance letter to Parsons School of Design in New York. But Derek just nodded absently and retreated to the garage for hours. The resentment showed in small cuts that bled for years. At 17, I designed a logo for our neighbor's new bakery and earned $500. I showed Dad proudly, and he glanced up from his Coors Light and muttered, "Chase made twice that detailing cars on weekends." When I got my Parsons acceptance with a partial scholarship, he asked how much it would cost him. Mum snapped at him for the first time I'd ever witnessed, saying I'd earned it, but the damage was done. He skipped my high school graduation, claiming a double shift at the dealership, though Mum later found the bar receipt from that night. I left for New York 3 months later with $2,800 saved from part-time retail jobs. A full ride I'd fought for, and I'd promised to Mum that I'd make something of myself. Parsons was brutal and beautiful. I worked at a coffee shop in Greenwich Village from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., attended classes until 4 p.m., then did graphic design freelance gigs until midnight, surviving on 4 hours of sleep and ambition. My mentor, Professor Vivian Torres, a Chilean immigrant who'd built her own agency in the 90s, saw something in my portfolio. She connected me with her former students, now creative directors at startups hungry for fresh branding. By senior year, I'd designed identities for 12 small companies, charging $3,000 to $8,000 per project, building a portfolio that landed me a job offer at a Manhattan boutique agency for $62,000 annually. Mum was so proud she cried over FaceTime. Dad just said, "That's good, Harper," and hung up to watch a game. Then Mum got diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer 3 weeks before my graduation. She'd ignored symptoms for months, thinking it was menopause. By the time they caught it, it had spread. I moved back to Bellevue immediately, deferring the New York job, and spent the next 8 months in hospitals that smelled like disinfectant and despair. Dad shut down completely, drinking Bud Light in the garage while I managed chemo schedules, insurance appeals, and Mum's morphine doses at 3 a.m. She died on a Tuesday in February, holding my hand, whispering, "Take care of him. He's lost without me." I was 23 years old, and I promised her I would. The funeral costs were $18,000. Dad had $340 in checking. I covered it with freelance savings. Then came the bills. Mum's treatments, even with insurance, left $95,000 in medical debt. The mortgage was 3 months behind at $2,800 a month. Dad's truck payment was overdue. I discovered he'd been gambling online for years, racking up $67,000 across 3 credit cards and $213,000 in personal loans from predatory lenders. Mum had been quietly managing it, taking extra hygienist shifts, but without her income, it all collapsed. He sat at the kitchen table, broken, and I made a decision I'd regret for 8 years. I'd save him because Mum asked me to. I took the Manhattan job remotely, convincing them I needed to stay in Seattle for family reasons. $62,000 became my lifeline. I sent $3,500 monthly to cover the mortgage and basics, used the rest to chip away at debts. At night, after my 9 to 5, I took freelance branding projects from West Coast startups willing to pay $5,000 to $15,000 for complete visual identities. I slept 4 hours, lived on instant ramen and black coffee, and watched my bank account bleed while Derek watched ESPN and thanked me with hollow eyes. 2 years in, I'd cleared $50,000 of his debt and landed a massive contract. A San Francisco tech company needed a full rebrand, $180,000 over 6 months. I quit the remote job and went full freelance, moved to a $1,400 studio in Capitol Hill, and threw everything into the project. Vivian flew out to advise, connecting me with her Bay Area network. The rebrand won a regional Addy Award, and suddenly I had 3 companies bidding for my services. At 26, I incorporated Mitchell Brand Studio, leased a small office in Pioneer Square for $2,200 monthly, and hired 2 junior designers from University of Washington's program. Revenue in year 1, $340,000. Year 2, $680,000. I paid off Dad's remaining $230,000 in debts by my 28th birthday, refinanced his mortgage at a lower rate, then paid it off entirely 6 months later, transferring the house title to my name with him as lifetime tenant for estate planning purposes. He cried when I told him, hugged me for the first time since Mom's funeral, and said, "Your mother would be so proud." I believed he meant it. By 29, Mitchell Brand Studio had 8 employees, an office suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, and contracts with subsidiaries of Amazon and partners of Microsoft. We specialized in tech startup branding, and the Seattle ecosystem was exploding. Revenue hit $2.1 million, then $3.4 million the next year, then $4.8 million by the time I turned 31. I bought a loft in Belltown with a rooftop deck, drove a Tesla Model S, and sent Dad $6,500 monthly for living expenses, even though the house was paid off. He'd text thank yous, occasionally called to chat about nothing, and I thought we'd finally healed the wound Chase's death had torn open. My personal life was a graveyard of almosts. I dated a software engineer for 8 months, until he complained I worked too much. A graphic novelist for 4 months, until she said I was emotionally unavailable. My best friend and coup. Zoe Park, who I'd met at a design conference in New York 5 years ago, kept telling me I was substituting business success for therapy. She wasn't wrong, but stopping meant feeling everything I'd buried, and I couldn't afford that. The agency was my identity, my tribute to Mum, my proof I was worth the air chase never got to breathe. That Tuesday, when everything shattered, I had left the office at 2 p.m. because the client meeting rescheduled last minute. Traffic was light, and I pulled into Dad's driveway at 2:35 p.m. instead of the usual 6 p.m. I'd visit for weekly dinners. I still had my key, let myself in quietly since he might have been napping. That's when I heard his voice from the upstairs bedroom. Door cracked open. Phone on speaker. "Ron, I'm telling you, it's like winning the lottery without buying a ticket," Dad said, laughing that gravelly smoker's laugh. "Harper sends $6,500 every month like clockwork. I haven't worked in 3 years. Just gotta pretend I care when she comes around." Uncle Ron's voice crackled through. "She ever ask for the money back?" "Never. The guilt trip works every time. I just mention Linda's last words, and boom, the checks keep coming. Easiest corn I ever pulled. Derek, that's your daughter. Harper was the biggest mistake of my life. I should have convinced Linda to abort when there was still time. Chase was supposed to carry the family name, build something real. Instead, I got stuck with a girl who thinks she's better than everyone because she designs logos for tech brothers. Only reason I keep in touch is the money. She's a cash machine, nothing more. My vision tunneled. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and let it capture every word. 3 more minutes of them laughing about my guilt complex and desperate need for Daddy's approval. I backed out. Drove to a Starbucks and sat in my car for an hour just staring at the recording. Then I called Zoe. I need a lawyer, the best one we know, and a private investigator. Today. Zoe didn't ask questions over the phone. She met me at my loft within 45 minutes with a bottle of whiskey and contact information for Marcus Chun, a PI who specialized in financial fraud, and Eleanor Vorse, an attorney who handled family law with a reputation for being ruthless. I played them both the recording that evening. Eleanor's eyes hardened. "That's elder abuse in reverse, and attempted fraud if he's using your resources under false pretenses. We can build a case. Marcus took the job for $8,000 up front. Give me 2 weeks. I'll find everything." I kept up appearances, texting Dad goodnight, sending the monthly $6,500 like clockwork. At the weekly dinner, I smiled and asked about his day while rage simmered under my skin. He complained about needing a new TV, and I said I'd think about it. Zoe watched me go through the motions at work. closing a $620,000 deal with a biotech startup while my personal life was a ticking bomb. Marcus delivered his report on day 13. Dad had $67,000 in new gambling debts spread across offshore betting sites. He'd been lying about being retired. He'd been fired from the dealership 3 years ago for showing up drunk. The back problems he claimed kept him from working were fabricated. His doctor's notes showed no limitation. Worse, Marcus found draft documents on Dad's laptop, accessed via an old cloud backup. A forged quitclaim deed transferring the house title from my name to his. Notarized by Uncle Ron, who'd let his notary license lapse 2 years ago, making it doubly fraudulent. They planned to sell the house, split the proceeds, and disappear before I noticed. He's been shopping real estate agents, Marcus said, sliding over printed emails. Asking about market value, fastest sale options. The house is worth about $580,000 now. He thinks it's still his. I sat in Eleanor's office reviewing everything. What are my options? Legally, the house is yours. You can evict him with 60 days' notice. The fraud attempt is criminal. We file a police report. For emotional damages, it's harder, but the recording establishes his intent. I'd recommend a restraining order to prevent retaliation. You want to go full scorched earth? Every last inch burned, I said. 3 weeks after the initial conversation I'd overheard, Dad called. Hey, sweetheart, got a proposition. Uncle Ron and I want to start a classic car restoration business. Real money in it, especially with vintage Mustang. We need $200,000 to lease a garage and buy initial inventory. I know it's a lot, but it's a solid investment. Your mum always wanted me to follow my passion. I let the silence hang for 3 seconds. That's a big number, Dad. Let me think about it. How about we discuss it over dinner? Somewhere nice. My treat. Yeah, sure, Harper. That'd be great. I booked Caneless, Seattle's most expensive restaurant, $300 per person minimum, for the following Saturday. Told Dad to bring Uncle Ron, called it a business discussion dinner. I arrived with Zoe and Marcus, who I introduced as my attorney and financial advisor. Dad and Ron showed up in sport coats, reeking of desperation disguised as confidence. We ordered appetizers, made small talk. Dad pitched the car restoration dream with rehearsed enthusiasm, pulling out printed business plans clearly downloaded from a template site. Ron backed him up, talking about market opportunities and generational wealth. I nodded along, sipping $40 per glass wine, letting them think they'd won. Before we talk numbers, I said, setting my glass down, I need to address something. I pulled out my iPad, opened the audio file, and hit play. The restaurant was quiet enough that the words cut through the ambient jazz like a cleaver. Harper was the biggest mistake of my life. I should have convinced Linda to abort when there was still time. She's a cash machine, nothing more. Dad's face drained of color. Ron reached for the iPad, but Marcus blocked his hand. That's evidence. Don't touch it. Harper, I can explain. No, you can't. I slid a folder across the table. Private investigators report. $67,000 in gambling debts you've hidden. The forged quitclaim deed on your laptop. Emails to real estate agents about selling my house. The house I paid $420,000 to own. Ron stood up. This is entrapment. Eleanor's voice was ice. Sit down. We're not done, I continued, calm as discussing quarterly earnings. Second folder, eviction notice. You have 60 days to vacate the premises. Third folder, restraining order, approved this morning. You're to stay 500 feet from me, my home, and my business. Fourth folder, police report for attempted fraud and forgery. Detectives will contact you within 48 hours. Dad's hands shook. You're my daughter. I raised you. No, you didn't. Mum raised me. Chase's ghost haunted me. You cashed checks. I stood, Zoe and Marcus flanking me. I spent 8 years keeping you afloat because I promised a dying woman I'd take care of you. You've spat on that promise every single day. We're done. Harper, please. You said I was a mistake. Congratulations. You're about to find out what life looks like without that mistake subsidizing yours. People at nearby tables had stopped eating, watching the spectacle. I didn't care. I walked to the host stand, paid the $1,847 bill, including a $500 tip for the staff who'd witnessed the chaos, and left without looking back. Dad tried to follow, shouting about forgiveness, but restaurant security, alerted beforehand by Eleanor, escorted him and ran out through a side exit. That night, I changed every password, cancelled every autopay to his accounts, and blocked his number. Zoe opened a bottle of champagne in my loft, and we toasted to boundaries. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Free," I said, and meant it. The next morning, I listed the Bellevue house with a top agent for $580,000, price to move. It sold in 11 days to a young family for $578,000 cash. Closing took 30 days. I donated the entire net proceeds, $554,000 after fees, to the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance's Ovarian Cancer Research Fund in Linda Chun Mitchell's name. The tax write-off was secondary. Watching Dad lose his safety net was priceless. He and Ron faced criminal charges. The district attorney, eager for an easy conviction, offered a plea deal. 18 months probation, 200 hours community service, $25,000 fine, and restitution for the pie and legal costs. Dad took it to avoid jail. Ron lost his business license for notary fraud and paid $15,000 in fines. Without the house and without my money, Dad moved into a subsidized apartment in Renton for $900 monthly, picked up shifts at an AutoZone for $16 per hour, and faded into the anonymity he deserved. Uncle Ron tried calling once, leaving a voicemail about family healing. I forwarded it to Eleanor, who sent a C. Sandersist. No more contact came. Mitchell Brand's studio, meanwhile, exploded. Freed from the emotional anchor of Dad's manipulation, I poured energy into expansion. We opened a Los Angeles office in a WeWork on Wilshire Boulevard, hired 6 more designers and 2 account executives, and landed a $1.2 million contract with an entertainment startup. By year-end, revenue hit $7.2 million. I promoted Zoe to partner with 15% equity, hired a CFO from Amazon, and started looking at acquisition targets. But success felt hollow until I addressed the real wound. Zoe finally convinced me to see Dr. Patel, a therapist specializing in family trauma and complicated grief. Twice a week for 6 months, I unpacked Chase's death, the guilt I'd carried, the parentification Mum had unknowingly imposed, and Dad's weaponization of my loyalty. Dr. Patel helped me see that mourning Chase didn't require sacrificing my life, and that honoring Mum meant living fully, not chaining myself to a man who despised me. Around month 4 of therapy, I met Daniel Reeves at a Seattle Design Festival networking mixer. He was 34, an architect who'd moved from Portland to work on the waterfront development projects, with kind eyes and a laugh that felt effortless. We talked about buildings and brands, discovered we both loved hiking the Cascades, and exchanged numbers without games. Our first date was a 9-mile hike to Rattlesnake Ledge, followed by Thai food in North Bend. He asked about my family, and I gave the short version, estranged. It's better that way. He didn't push, and I appreciated the space. 6 months in, I told him the full story. We were sitting on my rooftop deck, watching ferries cross Elliott Bay, and I played him the recording. Daniel listened without interrupting, then held my hand and said, "You're the bravest person I know. No pity, no horror, just respect." That's when I knew he was different. Dad tried contact once more, about 18 months after the eviction. A handwritten letter arrived at my office, forwarded by someone who clearly didn't check our no-contact protocols. I recognized the handwriting on the envelope. Zoe offered to open it, but I shook my head, walked to the office kitchen, and held it over the sink while lighting it with a match. Watched it curl and blacken, smoke rising to the vent. Eleanor had prepared a response for this scenario. A formal legal letter reiterating the restraining order and threatening contempt charges. We sent it certified mail. Nothing came after that. Work became joyful instead of compulsive. I took weekends off, hiked with Daniel, hosted dinners with Zoe and her wife, invested in a small artist coop in Georgetown. The agency grew steadily, $9.1 million by year 3 post-Dad, $11.4 million by year 4. We won national awards, got featured in Fast Company and Adweek, and I spoke at SXSW about building authentic brands. Journalists asked about my background, and I kept it vague. Complicated family, but I'm grateful for the people who chose to stay. On my 34th birthday, Daniel proposed on the same Rattlesnake Ledge trail where we'd first hiked. Simple, platinum band, no drama, just, "Will you build a life with me?" I said yes. We married 6 months later in a small ceremony at a San Juan Islands vineyard. 40 guests, all chosen family. Zoe was my best woman. Vivian flew in from New York. My team filled 3 tables, laughing and dancing under string lights. No one asked about my parents. They knew better. I never saw Dad again. Mutual acquaintances reported sightings. Him bagging groceries at a QFC in Renton, looking 20 years older, living alone in a studio with a TV and not much else. Ron apparently moved to Spokane, managing a tire shop. I felt nothing learning this. Not satisfaction, not sadness, just the mild interest you'd give a stranger's misfortune. The house that had been the family home, where Mum had planted roses and Chase had worked on his motorcycle, where I'd hidden in my room sketching logos to escape, became someone else's fresh start. I drove by once out of curiosity. The new owners had painted it blue, added a swing set in the yard. Kids played on the lawn. It looked happy. That's all it ever should have been. 3 years post-scorched earth, Mitchell Brand Studio employs 24 people across Seattle and LA, generates $14.6 million annually, and I'm in talks with a venture firm about Series A funding to scale nationally. Daniel and I bought a mid-century modern home in Magnolia with water views and a garden where I grow vegetables Mum would have loved. Zoe's wife is pregnant with twins via IVF, and I'm godmother in waiting. Dr. Patel and I meet monthly now, maintenance sessions, and I've stopped having the nightmare where I'm late to pick up Chase. I keep exactly one photo of Dad, the 4 of us at my Parsons graduation, Mum beaming. Chase's empty space, a ghost between us. Dad's smile not quite reaching his eyes. It's in a storage box in the basement with old tax returns and forgotten cables. I don't look at it, but I don't destroy it either. It's evidence of a life I survived, not one I'm sentenced to relive. The lesson I carry, the one I'd tell anyone trapped in similar toxicity: don't wait for family to recognize your worth. Don't sacrifice your peace for people who weaponize your love. Blood is just biology. Loyalty must be earned. I spent 8 years trying to repay a debt that never existed, funding a man who saw me as an ATM, believing obligation was the same as honor. It wasn't. Mum's dying wish wasn't a life sentence. It was made in desperation by someone who couldn't imagine how cruel the man she loved would become. Cutting Dad off didn't make me heartless. It made me whole. The people at my birthday table, the ones who show up without ledgers or conditions, who celebrate my wins and hold space for my grief, they're my family. Daniel, Zoe, my team, the clients who trust me, the artists I mentor through the co-op, even Dr. Patel in her own way. They chose me, and I chose them back, and that reciprocity is the foundation real families are built on. Derek Mitchell is 61 now, I think, working retail, living small. I don't track him anymore. He's a stranger who shares some DNA, nothing more. The rage I felt hearing that recording has transmuted into indifference, which is the most permanent ending I could give him. He wanted me to be a mistake. I became a success in spite of him. He wanted easy money. He got poverty earned through his own cruelty. He wanted me broken. I'm flourishing. Sometimes, late at night when Daniel's asleep and the city lights shimmer across the water, I think about what I'd say if Dad ever showed up again. But the truth is, there are no words left. I gave him 8 years and $800,000 trying to be enough. He taught me the most valuable lesson. Some people will never see you, no matter how brightly you shine. Stop performing for an empty audience. Turn toward the ones who already applaud. Thanks for staying with me through this entire story. I know it's heavy, but it's real. And maybe someone needed to hear that it's okay to walk away from family that hurts you. What would you have done in my position? Have you ever had to cut out someone you loved to save yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this resonated, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about boundaries, survival, and building the life you actually deserve. See you in the next one, where I'll share what happened when my ex-business partner tried to steal my client list. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.